Hello everyone, so in today's video I want to reflect on a video that I made a little while ago now, which was my Witcher Remastered Manifesto video, whatever it was called. I wanted to address some of the concerns I saw in the comments of that video, and clarify a few positions I hold because I've had further thoughts about it and I just want to share that. And also, I actually want to discuss some other concerns I recently realised I have about the remaster, which are things that many of you might not have considered because I didn't consider it and I just thought, oh wow, that's actually such a major thing. In the last video, I made comments specifically regarding the Campfire system in The Witcher 1. If you're not aware, in The Witcher 1, in order to meditate or make potions or do various other things, you have to go to one of the various campfires around the game, and I basically said that I want this system removed and meditation and potion making to be similar to the Witcher 3 system. I read a lot of comments from people sharing their frustrations about this, but also a lot of people that really like this system. I think there are a lot of valid points raised in regarding to actually having to use the campfires, as it requires you to sometimes go to inns or find certain locations you can rest in, and it makes the game feel like less of a point A to point B style adventure. You actually have to participate in certain buildings and the world, etc. So yeah, because in The Witcher 1 you have to go to the campfires to create potions, rest, etc., it effectively just allows you to feel like you're actually in the world. For example, using the heat of the fire to create potions is kind of immersive. Now, I do see that point, I really do. I get that it's a fun aspect. However, I still personally would rather have the convenience of just being able to make the potions if I have the ingredients and rest when I want to. I just think it can be quite tedious to have to... I remember playing the game, you know, you'd have to go and find a fireplace, you'd have to light the fireplace, you have to sit at the fireplace to make like one potion, and then you run out of the potions, you have to go make more, and it's just like this incredibly tedious system, which I get it's immersive, but sometimes I don't want to play a game so it's exactly like real life, you know, I want to have a little bit of convenience in certain areas. But having said that, I don't agree with taking the option away from players that would prefer to have it. Therefore, I think if possible, I'd like to have both in the game, as it allows for different levels of difficulty past just harder monsters to kill. I think difficulty seems to always be thought of as, you know, you have less health or something and the monsters have more health and they do more damage, something like that. I think it would be cool if you could actually add that level of difficulty to the gameplay, so you know, you have to go to the campfires, etc. I think that's a good thing to add in, and a good thing to keep, I suppose, in regard to The Witcher 1. So essentially, if people want the more, I'd say, relatively tedious experience of being able to feel more immersed, which is also a benefit, I think why not give it to them as an option? Or if players want to focus just on the story and avoid having to go to campfires to progress and develop their character, let them do that too. I think I would still like to play the version with the campfires, because I'm interested in playing sort of all aspects of the game, but I just think that for the general player and for most players, it's just something that is not that appealing. If you disagree, completely get it. I just think, personally, I'd like to have the option of not having it as well as having it. So my next point that was a little bit controversial was in regard to the combat. So personally, I really love The Witcher 3's combat. I know that's a little bit controversial, and I'll admit this could be due to how much I've played the game. I wanted the remastered Witcher 1 to have combat in a similar vein, but many people also disagreed with this point. The general consensus I could gather was that The Witcher 1 is just a different game, and The Witcher 3 simplified the combat in many ways, and made it a little bit more sort of, you know, simple, I suppose. I mean, I say simplified, but simple in regard to, like, the moves you can do. It's very just click this, avoid, attack, attack sort of thing. However, I felt from my experience playing The Witcher 1 that the combat could be incredibly clunky. It was effectively point and click and chain your clicking until you kill the enemy. I will admit that the different stances in the game were interesting, and it would be fun to add something like this to a more modern style of RPG combat. Maybe you could just toggle the stances depending on the enemy, something like that. However, I do stand by my feelings on this. Many people asked me, I remember in the comments, if I just wanted a Witcher 3.2, and to be honest, I think I do. In all honesty, if you were to ask what do I want from this remaster, I'd like the Witcher 1 story, but in The Witcher 3. That's it, that's all I want. I really enjoyed The Witcher 3, so that's a big reason, but I would like to have some story improvements in The Witcher 1 remaster, mainly in regard to the dialogue, but keep the same story, just sort of improve a little bit of the clunkiness in some areas. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Don't, like, change the story, just sort of make it a little bit more fluid. It's still the same story though. I felt like The Witcher 3 was fluid enough, despite some issues in horse combat, and for me far more fluid than The Witcher 1. I get that The Witcher 1 is a much older game and made on a much smaller budget, and that's exactly my thoughts too. I think The Witcher 3 was a massive improvement, and simply updating The Witcher 1's graphics but keeping the systems would be a failure for me. I mean, you couldn't even like jump in The Witcher 1, guys. I don't think the combat, you could argue, is better. You could argue it has a bit of complexity to it, but the systems have complexity, but the actual combat does not. You just point, click, you can switch your stance, you can use signs sometimes, I guess, and you do have to do a bit of prep before with potions, which is, yeah, I'd say it's just harder. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better, but I know people have different opinions on this. I understand people have their own tastes, and I wouldn't propose my way of thinking is the correct way. I would say this is just a viewpoint I hold, and I'm explaining why I have it. If I'm being honest, as much as I would like just The Witcher 3, but it's The Witcher 1 story, I would also be equally, if probably more interested in seeing an entirely new combat system, perhaps incorporating the best elements of all games, you know, of all the Witcher games, and maybe taking from some other games that it could work from. I'm always up for new ideas if it works. I think that would definitely be, well, it would actually be really interesting. So I also want to talk about one more thing that I didn't mention in my last video and I haven't seen talked about before, and it's something that occurred to me recently and I thought it's actually a very important part of the game. It's, are we going to be able to import save games? Will we be able to play The Witcher 1 Remastered and import our save decisions into The Witcher 2? Because for me, the importing of saves is a fairly big factor in playing The Witcher 1, 2 and 3, so if this isn't an option, I would be kind of concerned. I love that you can have your Geralt in The Witcher 1, you import to The Witcher 2 and it has some of your armor, your items, etc. Then you gain your items in The Witcher 2, then you can import to 3 and it saves certain decisions, like if you get the tattoo, if you go with Roach's side, etc. Well, you know, just if you get the tattoo, that sort of thing. I think that's so cool. And I don't want to sort of ruin that fluidity of 1 to 2 to 3 because it feels like one big game. There's very few games that allow you to actually do that. And the reason I'm quite concerned about it is because I feel that it might be quite difficult to do, especially on the coding side. The Witcher 2 would need to be updated, I'm sure, in some way, and it could limit CD Projekt Red in regard to the sorts of armors and items that they could incorporate into The Witcher 1. For example, I'd like to see an introduction of the Bear Skull, Viper Skull, to be honest, all the Witcher Skull armors into The Witcher 1. I don't see a reason you can't have them. It might be quite fun to expand upon the armor system, because it doesn't necessarily affect the story. I would love to have The Witcher 1 story, and then you add more side missions. You know, I don't see that being that big of a deal. Maybe you can get some Witcher armors here and there. It might be quite interesting. But of course, just for the sake of nostalgia, you got to keep Raven's armor as the top armor of the game. But I just think, why not add them? So if they did that, it might be quite difficult to import to 2 with the armor because you wouldn't have it, right? But I'm sure there's some kind of solution for that where you could just, you know, give the character whatever like armor is equivalent from the game, something like that, you know. I'm sure that a solution could be found. But we'll have to see. But anyway guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you've all enjoyed. I'd like to continue occasionally making videos about the remaster and addressing any comments or concerns you guys have and sharing my own opinions as information releases or ideas come to me. So subscribe and stay tuned for more of that. I'm aiming for 4,000 subscribers, so let's see what we can do. That would be really cool if we could get to that. And be sure to like the video for more, support the channel, you know, that sort of thing. I'd really appreciate it, you know, you guys are amazing, so... Thanks so much, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all again soon. See you later.